Hey, how's it going, guys? It's me, Flat Earth Sage. It's out here in my garden, about to make a video on how to grow cantaloupes in containers. And no, these aren't any cantaloupes or anything. That's actually the amaranth. And doing quite well. Believe it or not, these have not been watered in a few days, but they're doing perfectly fine. Well, what do we got going on here? Alright. Now, there is some holes in from pests, but again, it's still a little bit too hot for me to apply any sort of pesticides. I've already learned the hard way with my raspberry, so I won't be doing that. So yeah, I mean, these do have a little bit of speckling on it, a little bit of some slight damage. But that's mostly because I didn't have this down earlier. But now I do, so that's locked in a lot of the moisture. So now I can go like 3-4 days without having to water this bed, and my plants' leaves will be completely turgid. Now, got a little sidetracked. Now for the main part of the video. This right here is my cantaloupe seedling I've been growing from the seed starting tray. This whole tray had plants, or I started seeds in all these cells. This one was the only one that actually germinated correctly. Now, right now, these right here, I call them the baby leaves right here. When you're growing these in the seed starting trays, after the baby leaves have grown and it's produced these leaves, those are known as the true leaves. That's an ideal time to go ahead and plant out your seedling. So what I got here is terracotta container or clay or whatever container, and I got pure compost right at the top. Now, I did my research on growing cantaloupes, and I've been trying to find information on the correct mixture for the cantaloupes, but there's not really a clear-cut answer to it. So I just went ahead and applied a compost, which is a 7.0 neutral pH right there. This is generally the type of soil that most plants would prefer. And even if the plants preferred it a little bit more acidic, a little bit more alkaline, it's because it's a 7.0, it's very easy to amend and change that. That's why we went ahead and went with the pure compost. And what I got right here is some distilled water, some bottled distilled water, with a nice cool temperature to it. Right now, the temperatures are about probably 98, 99 degrees right now. So because I'm starting such a delicate seedling in a bigger container outdoors, I went ahead and tried to go with a water that doesn't necessarily have any impurities to it. Pure steam distillation, and the water's nice and cool. It's probably I'd say about 70 degrees, which is going to be perfect, because you don't want the water to be too warm when you're planting out new seedlings. That's going to quickly burn your roots and cause a lot of stress to your plant, even if it didn't burn the roots that bad. So that's why I went ahead and did that. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this out of the plug and go ahead and pull this out of the plug and up pot this, and want to show you guys something with the roots. Give me 1 second. pull this out. I need to set my phone down for a sec. Yeah. Okay. Let me go ahead and show you guys. Try to get it as clear and as focused as possible. As you can see, the roots, it's not root bound at all. It's got good root structure. All the roots are white, which means that they're completely healthy roots. If the roots are brown or black, that probably means that they've been sitting in water too long. So this is a very healthy seedling. And all we're going to do is I'm going to give these roots a nice soak. Because believe it or not, some of these plants, the plants will dry out very, very quickly, believe it or not. So let's go ahead and do that. Give me 1 second. Now, this is just something I do with my seeds that I start, is just make sure the roots are nice and soaked good. Because that way I have, it reduces a lot of the damage from transplant shock if you keep them moist and you don't keep them away from moisture too long. So, go ahead and do that. And the next thing you want to do is you want to loosen this. This is not even close to root bound right now. So I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary, but I just like to loosen the root mass up just for good measure. So do that. So as you can see, I loosened them up nice and good. When you're loosening up the roots, some plants' roots are very, very fragile than others, or much more fragile than others. So you have to be really careful when you loosen them up. All that you really need to do is just give it a slight tap around every side of it. And then at the bottom, just, well, for lack of a better term, finger the bottom of it. And it'll make sure the roots are nice and loose. And now these roots and this plant are ready to go. So, but before we even do that, I should have actually, you want to water the mix first. So give me a second. Now this might be a slow process at first, but you really want to let that water sink in. This stuff that I'm using is very, very dry, so it's going to take a minute for it to actually fully hydrate. So we can fix this by making sure the soil's nice and worked in, working it in ourselves in this manner. Find the hole at the bottom. There we go. All the excess water's drained. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is wash my hand. Okay. Now, because I'm growing in containers, one thing that you're going to want to do if you're growing cantaloupe in containers is you're going to want to make sure that you're fertilizing at least once a week. And when your cantaloupe or when your plant gets to the point where it's starting to produce fruit, I would say to make sure you take off all but 2 or 3 cantaloupe fruits, because the cantaloupe will try to produce many fruits, but since it's growing in a container, the fruits aren't going to be as large if you don't thin those out and take those off. It's better to have a few really big fruits than a bunch of small, tiny, little wimpy fruits, in my opinion. So, before we add this plant to the container, I'm going to go ahead and add a tiny bit of fertilizer. Something preferably that's a little bit higher in nitrogen. Reason being is because the plant's still young. It's still really small. And when you have a plant that's more rich, or when you have a fertilizer, that's more rich in nitrogen, that nitrogen is going to allow for plant development, or for the leaf development. It's going to allow the plant's going to uptake that and use that nitrogen to grow bigger, better leaves, and that's solely gonna focus on leaf growth, and that'll help to get the plant, closer to the size that it needs to, so that it doesn't have to stay in that pot for too much longer, because this is not going to be its final home there. That's just going to be a temporary situation for it until it gets to the size that I want. Once the size of the plant starts getting, once it starts to look like it's starting to overtake the container, a little bit before then, I'll plant it in one of these containers right here, one of these 15-gallon grow bags. So come along with me, hop in the garage and get the fertilizer. Now, I got a few different options for fertilizer. Um, I got an all-purpose plant food. That's a 1257. I'm going to try this stuff here. Contains micronutrients, and it's got a immediate and time release nitrogen. So, well, it does say it feeds for 3 months, so I don't know if I want to do that. 4 or 5. I'm going to go ahead and go with this EB Stone Organics instead, because it's a little bit lower. It's a 453. So it's a little bit more balanced. Doesn't have too much more nitrogen, but I know I said to focus on ones that have a little bit more nitrogen, but I'm going to up pot this later. And when I do that, I'm going to have to fertilize again anyway. So for now, we're just going to give it something basic like this. And we're going to go ahead and come in here. Ugh, man. I started running a mile every day, so my knees are sore as shit. All right. So we're just going to build a hole, just roughly the size of that plug. And before we do that, we're going to apply a tiny bit. Again, it's not going to be exact measurements or anything like that, but all I'm going to do is sprinkle a tiny bit into the hole. Not much. Don't need a whole lot. And then we're going to work it nice and good into the surrounding soil. So that way, as the plant's roots improve, they'll mine this fertilizer. That should be very, very helpful. Because the plant is so small, that's why I'm not applying that much fertilizer to it. If it was a super large plant, then indeed I would, but that's actually way too big. All right. Do not perceive myself getting drowsy. Cold integrity keeps me wide awake. Get me out of this cavern, we'll all cave in. Okay, so there's that. I'll clean the edges up a little bit. Now, the reason why it's why I have it in like a little bowl type, or why I have the soil line shaped like a bowl is because I wasn't even thinking. I'm not really used to I haven't really transplanted seedlings this small in a while, so I forgot how small the plug was. But it's okay. I mean, most of that soil is going to settle. So, and what I'm going to do is tamper. Make sure you press into your soil. You want good contact between the roots and the soil. So, what do you think, guys? It's not bad, right? Not bad at all for a guy who hasn't done seedlings in a long time. But there we go. That's good. I'm going to just clean the leaves up a bit. Oh, actually, they look like they're okay. Oh, and one other thing I want to touch on too before I end the video is this was started indoors. So you're going to want to have to do something called training your seedlings. So what that basically means is because the seedling was grown under a grow light in my room, it's not used to these temperatures, the beating sun, right there. I mean, it's not used to the heat right now. So what you're going to want to do is put it outside for about an hour, bring it inside, and then the next day take it out for 2 hours, and then repeat that process until maybe you get up to about 6 hours. Once you get up to about 6 hours, your seedling should be completely what they call hardened off and fully trained. So I'm gonna let this sit for a little while. I'm gonna give it one more good watering, and then let it sit for a while. I'm going to go ahead and... So I'm going to leave it out here. Let this water sit in. And after that, I'm going to let it... Keep it out here for about an hour. And then I'm going to bring it in. Repeat the process tomorrow. So, hope this video was a little bit informative for everybody. Especially if you're trying to grow cantaloupes outdoors. So, yeah, I will definitely keep everybody updated on the status of this cantaloupe while I'm in the process of training it. So, anyways, that's about it for me here. I hope y'all are doing well. Peace, guys.